welcome to SpeakEasy Online. It's April 2023, and it's good to see you guys here. There may be others joining us later on. And I've just got a couple of reminders again about the Poetry Symposium event at Tully taking place on the 13th of May. That's a free event and it kicks off about 12:30 and should wrap up about 3:30. There'll be guest writers and poets, the opportunity to do open mic reading sections, and you can buy books from the pop-up poetry bookshop as well. And Andy's also putting on some workshops. There's one on Saturday, this coming Saturday, the 22nd of April. He's not able to do the one on the 29th now, so I'm having to spread the word about that. And then there'll be workshops after the event on the 20th and 27th of May, and those will be taking place in the meeting room at Tully from 1 p.m. till 4 p.m. and they're £10 to book a place, but the funds go to support the event, and they're all about writing poetry and different aspects of poetry. There's details on Andy's website, on his blog, and I've emailed it out to most people, and I'll be putting it on the Facebook page as well, just to remind folks. So yeah, that's the housekeeping done, I think. We'll crack on. And got this one. I read this one at SpeakEasy last month, but I've revised it a little bit. I saw an old friend of mine the other day, and we were catching up, and we both realized we'd been through a difficult few years, but I hadn't realized how difficult it'd been for her. Anyway, this one goes like this. It's called Then and Now, and I've changed it a little bit. We always have meaningful conversations, bookended by hellos and goodbyes at railway stations. It's time to say hello, my friend, once again. Your life is such a whirlwind, mine is just a mill pond. Are you going to jump right in, or stand there in silence, waiting, always waiting? Crash and bang, it follows you, dreams and schemes you follow through. And I've always marvelled at your style, from chaos how you journey on, never knowing the feelings that I tried to bear. Two lonely people standing there with all the words that failed us. Then and now, then and now, then and now. You afford the briefest visits, a fleeting glimpse into your world, passion for your art, adventure in your heart. And not a place for me. I'm just a story to you. Did you want to play a part? But then you've got to go, and we find ourselves waiting on a platform. You've trained upon a stage, but when the moment comes, you forget all your lines. Well, no surprise. So do I. And there's nothing left to say, except I never told you how much you meant to me that day. And it's over in an instant, and you whisked away. We always have meaningful conversations, bookended by hellos and goodbyes at railway stations. It's time to say farewell, my friend, once again. And that's that one. Thank you. Right, over to Roz. Do you have something for us?
Nonsense for you. Last month I did, what did I do? An anti-ode to Suella Braverman, so I thought I'd try and balance it up. So I've got not quite a sonnet for Starmer. I can never imagine Sir Keir Starmer riding in like a knight in shining armour. I see him more like a gentleman farmer, arriving stoically astride his llama. With well-intentioned plans, it's such a pity he doesn't quite grasp the nitty-gritty and seems to think raising the minimum wage will hardship and inequality assuage and improve the huge discrepancies in pay when taxing high earners is a better way to distribute fairly this country's vast wealth, and will pay for services, roads, schools and health. But Starmer plays safe, he's steady, staid and polite, and sadly lacking the gumption for the fight. And that's that.
Very good.
Yeah, you got some more political slogans and things worked out for the next round, I hope. Well, thanks, Roz. Okay.
What do you expect from me, Phil? I mean,
Well, your work's going in this very political direction recently, I thought, Very good. Thank you. John, over to you.
So first, a piece of information for you all that you can tell everybody. I went to an astronomy weekend and I learned that Mercury, the planet Mercury, has a tail. And I didn't know that before. It has an actual tail. And the reason why people haven't found it before is you have to look for it with the right colored filter. And the colored filter is sodium, because the tail, for some reason, is predominantly sodium. So you can tell everybody, next time you're out for a drink or at a dinner party, I can tell you something you don't know about Mercury. There you go. Found out this last weekend, passing it on. This poem is called Keeping Stum. Do you expect me to talk? Buried in the cinema dark, we sit beneath a waterfall of light that dances with dust. On screen, a laser sears a warning, cuts fast into the plot line, and a 10-year-old gulps and his dad sits glued. Together, freeze this frame as memory of a time shared, of a rare moment in a busy world. And the flickering screen reflects an undying hope that miracles can happen, even impossible escapes. No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. So that's that's just a really silly poem, because one of the first movies my dad took me to was Goldfinger, and he couldn't have made a better choice. I've loved Shirley Bassey ever since, and I think the movie is fantastic.
It's a classic. I think it's got a few issues when you look at it from a modern perspective, but it hurtles along at such a pace, and it's just escapist nonsense. Really, it's brilliant, shocking, positively shocking. It's just great. Excellent. Now I will resist the urge to recite the entire hour and 45 minutes of Goldfinger, and we'll move on to Val. Do you have a poem for us, Val?
Yeah, well, I got it this afternoon and she says, have you written anything for tonight? I'm like, no. So I've knocked this out for you this afternoon, called Political Poetry. I'm a poetical, a literary liberal, creatively critical, always waxing lyrical. Rhyme that's analytical, sonnets that are cynical, songs that are satirical, poetry that has principle. For words can be wonderful and poems can be powerful. Verse can be invaluable to change what is changeable.
That's great.
Very Gilbert and Sullivan, I would say.
Yeah. That's great. We could work it into a full-blown political musical or something. Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, over to Graham. You've been joined by your cat.
Yeah, this is DD, and he has a tail as well.
Fantastic.
On my poetry Facebook page, it says, on paper a bit shit, on stage less so. I'm not very comfortable with not performing, as it were. So just being in a small screen with like half a dozen people is a bit of a strange experience for me. Anyway, should you really write poems about writing poems? To be honest, I'm not that keen on poetry. It can be pretty boring. In a few minutes in, I've lost interest, sorry. Some people don't even listen. They just hear what they want to hear. And although art is supposed to be subjective, the collective responsibility of an audience to act in a certain way in accordance with their neighbor, you still with me, can be overwhelming. The middle class have stolen and manipulated words and language from the people to meet their own selfish needs, robbing the rich tapestry of poetry of its meaning and influence. These words and that language become commodities only the rich and so-called educated can own. The rest of us have to rely on stories created by others. Tedious mass communication fed to us destroys language, shortens our attention span. Strawberry jam. And if any of you are still listening, you'll notice that none of these words rhyme. So to many folk, this is not even a poem. And what is a poem? What is poetry? But a form of controlment and manipulation of random words and language to suit our own facile intellectual endeavor. Poetry, oh, you gotta love it. In truth, poetry is whatever you want it to be. The end.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
I'm always intrigued by. I think it's the singer Jerry Lee Lewis. He always includes his own name in songs. Well, not always, but a lot of the time, and often writes songs about rock and roll. And I've always thought it's the most ridiculous idea to write a song about writing a song. So writing a poem about writing a poem is plainly ridiculous, but I did it anyway.
That was brilliant. That was so entertaining, and
It was brilliant, yeah.
Oh, well, thanks very much. Brilliant's good.
we were all nodding
Thank you.
along, going, "Yeah, no, we know this. We feel your pain."
I'm not sure it's true. It just sounds it just sounds like it might be true.
No, it was great. It's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. That's good.
Cheers.
Cool. All right.
There was no swearing in it as well, which is.
I know you've restrained yourself. I know.
It's okay. I'll probably make up for it later.
I'm looking forward to it. Cool.
Don't.
Thank you, Graham. That's fantastic.
Cheers.
All right. Back to me. This is called Scars of the Soul. It goes like this. I wear scars on my soul. There, the inner light burns so bright, most eyes can't see those hairline fractures. In these modern times, everybody seems to have their problems. Therapy and prescription meds make it safe to leave your bed. In this world, it seems I'm doing all right. I think I'm fine. Maybe the only one not to lose their mind. You wouldn't put no daggers through my heart, no tongue to cut me. I won't die 1,000 deaths. I wouldn't give you the satisfaction. In our disposable world, we seem to throw everything away. Love comes cheap, and hate is cheaper still. Kindness is underrated, but it's what we really need. Giving and caring, healing and hearing another person's point of view. Take a breath. Step back from the brink. Just maybe think about those unseen scars on someone else's soul. And there you are. Cheers, guys. And yeah, we've got 2 more people. We've got Jane joining us, George. So yeah.
So tell us where that one came from, Phil.
Just my.
What conjured it up?
I don't know, really. Just my subconscious, and I just words spill out my head sometimes. I was just. Hello. We've got George,
Hello.
and we've got Jane. Hello. You guys okay?
Sorry, I'm late.
It's not good enough.
Yeah.
It's not good
Sorry,
enough.
I love to join with you saying, Philip, words spill out my head.
That's just, you're in the right place when I'm saying that.
There's a fantastic image there. I'm scanning the screen to see if anybody else has got words spilling out their heads. Cheers, everyone. Sorry I'm late.
No, it's all right. Cheers. You guys, we've all been around once. Do you guys want to chip in now, and then we'll pick up again with Roz? So George, do you gonna go next, and then Jane?
Right. Yeah, I've dug back into stuff from quite a long time ago because I thought I would try to be a bit lighter than I sometimes am. So this is Villanelle, I think. Elephants can dance. When happiness seems to have no chance, there is a thought to keep you sane that whales do sing and elephants can dance. When fates conspire to make you wince, remember luck can join the game when happiness seems to have no chance. When devils round your head do prance, this thought will keep their madness tame, that whales do sing and elephants can dance. When nightmares make you look askance, remember fates can turn again when happiness seems to have no chance. When troubles taunt with fiery lance, the thought will soothe the writhing brain that whales do sing and elephants can dance. So set your joyous self to prance, cheer that hope is not in vain, when happiness seems to have no chance, for whales do sing and elephants can dance.
That was fantastic, George.
So George, I find that a very difficult form of Villanelle. Did you choose it because it was a challenge, or did you choose it because you like it?
Both, actually, I think, John. But it was what I like about Villanelle is, although it's a challenge, you get to use a lot of the lines over and over again.
Yeah.
It was one of those thoughts that suddenly came into my head that whales sing and then I thought and elephants can dance, and that made me laugh. So I thought, well, maybe it's worthwhile writing a poem about. And I like to have that sort of idea that I just have this thing in my head about dance, not the ones that you see in circuses. I mean, a real dancing elephant, almost like a Disney, cartoon type thing. But I just love this idea that when we're all away, the elephants all get out and have a quick tango, and so that was what it was, John. Yeah, but I know it's quite a nice form for that reason. You get to use the lines again.
Yeah, there was a lovely lyrical quality about it as well, George. Yeah, it was great. Cool. All right. Jane, have you got something for us?
Sorry, fella. I'm just a bit. I just have to find something quick.
That's all right. And we should say happy birthday for yesterday to you as well.
Ah, thank you.
You have a good
I've
one?
decided, yeah, and I've decided I'm going to be in my late 60s now forever. Because who can say at 80 that you're not in your late 60s? You are, aren't you? You are. So I'm staying there now. Yes, well, I'll read this one because I was trying to find a poem that Peter White sent me that somebody wrote about Margaret, but I have to find it, so I'll find it for next time round. This is called "The Place I Am" by American poet Peter Bennett. I have become a master of the craft of moulding patiently and with precision lethargy into shapes of hours and days. My cast of mind requires a library of books that I wrote myself, sufficient booze and shabby furniture. Beyond the balcony is marshy coast. My gaze slides along pewter-coloured horizontals that evening sunlight turns to bronze. It is a habitat where rare plants learn to live with salt and birds nest on the ground. It is the place I am. It should be empty of any presence otherwise. Rage and tales of unmapped quicksand are not discouraging enough. The landscape fades, I fade. I mourn its beauty, leached into sketch and photograph or into notebooks that birdwatchers carry. The sea is close. I fear death by erosion. It has grown dark, but now the sky is starry. I'll jot down where I'd like my body found, but not by whom. I think that's better left. And better left, I also think, is when. The airport glows inland. A homing plane blinks across the ankles of Orion. Peter Bennett.
That was good. So where's he?
I really like that last line, Jane.
It's lovely, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I really like it. I got it. I can't remember where I got it from, but I kept the link because I liked it so much. Yeah.
Cool.
That turned me off. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Excellent. Roz, we're back with you. Do you have another one for us?
Well, I've got nothing else new. So I gave Val my books today and I said, find me a poem. So she picked out this one, but I think I may have. I read it first on the 12th of June 2019, and I think I may have read it on here. So anyway, it's called Hopeful of Finding a Talent. I'm afraid I've left my talents rot, been somewhat imprudent since I did not tend to nurture them when they were growing, nor cultivate the ideas that were flowing freely, popping up in parts of my brain, where lost in its labyrinth they remain, abstracted, unable to formulate, without the artistry to demonstrate. My concepts have no form of expression, and I no means to create an impression. I should have learnt an instrument to play, only that would involve practice every day. If I was not tone deaf, I'd write a song or a novel if they were quite as long, train as a potter and work on the wheel, or create a sculpture out of iron or steel. Except it requires patience and hard graft to hone skills and master an art or craft, which I could do, but I'm inclined to shirk. I'd happily do it without the work. I would much prefer to find a quick fix, become an artist with a pile of bricks. I drip colour around with skill and flair, and strip away form and paint a white square. Perhaps make a dress from a bin liner, call myself a punk fashion designer, learn a few lines, become an actor, a celebrity with the wow factor. Provided it isn't complex or hard, I'd like to be held in high regard. Maybe poetry will be my breakthrough. I can write words that sound sincere and true, and like the picture with an extra tree for compositional integrity, poems can disguise reality, make unclear where the limit of my talent is near. I'll expend my effort and take my time and get down the words that both scan and rhyme, necessary for poetry to do, although not sufficient to make it good too. That was a bit long, but that was it.
Oh, that was good. That was kind of compliments Graham's piece about whether you should write about poetry or not. That's good. Thank you very much. John, back with you.
So this poem's about 4 years old, and I can tell that because it relates to the birth of our granddaughter, Abigail, and it just reflects on the fact that her parents, who were vibrant young people, turned into zombies very soon after the birth. So it's called What Happened? From euphoria to reality in 10 sleepless nights. New baby's monopoly on new parents' lives. Walking like zombies with nowhere to go, except feeding and nappies and watching her grow. What happened to life before we produced this lovable bundle that's forced us to roost? Our day is not ours now, but it used to be so. We used to decide when to get up and go. No one can tell you what it's going to be like. It's something you learn, just like riding a bike. You balance and fall and start over again. And somehow you manage to keep yourself sane. Oh, life is so different, but now I need rush. No time to write poetry or paint with a brush. I hear the cry starting. I see the mouth twist. I must go to the rescue. Her feed can't be missed. There you go. It's tough being parents.
How did your kids feel about the poem?
Yeah.
They've heard it.
They weren't awake to hear it. That was the problem.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, no, they liked it. They did. They thought I'd maybe exaggerated slightly.
No one would do that, not for comedic effect. Thank you very much. And is there another one about grandparenting, or is that less sleep depriving?
There is, but it's all about providing mischief and then running for the hills.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The eldest granddaughter said to me yesterday, she was at my birthday party. We were just talking about her granddads and one thing and another, and she said, and the thing about you, Nanny, is you are a bit silly. Bit silly.
We've had our suspicions for some time, Jane, but
it's true. It's true. Yeah.
There. Okay, we got Val. Back to Val, and then we'll be with Graham. So Val, do you have another one for us, please?
Yeah, I read this one at Poets Out Loud on Wednesday, so apologies to those who've already heard it. So I went for a walk by the River Ellen, and there was some daffodils, which is the flower I associate more with Cockermouth and Maryport. But being spring, I thought it would make a nice poem. So it's called the Maryport Daffodils. The sun shone on the River Ellen. The daffodils on the bank danced defiantly against an icy wind. No legion of flowers worthy of Wordsworthian words, but rather straggly soldiers scattered along the side. Memories of Mother's Day flowers for my mother, my proud Welsh father standing tall and strong, and the Cockermouth daffodils of home. All these thoughts serve to remind me that although people and places change, there will always be somebody here to admire the beauty of the daffodils.
Yeah, it's very true. Hopefully, nature always finds a way, doesn't it, and to carry on. Flowers are a big part of that. Yeah, that's cool. We've got 3.5 minutes. Is that enough time for you, Graham?
Yes.
Yep. Cool.
Okay, there is a trigger warning, though. There is a naughty word in this. A stopped clock. It feels like a physical weight inside my chest, dragging me down as if the heavy pendulum from a stopped clock is dangling there, immobile, frozen by time and physics, this heavy, stagnant object, drawn, held in its place with no means of exit or entry, no escape, locked, a lost key, rendering impenetrable only to be opened, if at all, by optimism, mostly departed at this time, except for the faint glimmer of hope, once opined by a wise mind when they said, don't you worry about a thing, because every little thing's going to be all right. Prick.
Yeah. Man. You read that at Speaking.
Can you guess what it's about?
Yeah, it's it's powerful, man.
It's about a stop clock. Yeah?
Yeah.
In the hallway. It's not. No, don't worry.
Do you want to go into detail about what it's about or not?
Well, it's about depression.
Yeah.
Which may be my depression or not.
Yeah. That's interesting. So words spilled out of your head as well.
Yeah, amongst other places.
Excellent. Okay, we're getting a bit close to having to sign back in. So I'll push the button and we can sign back in, and then we'll be back with George and Jane. And then, does that sound okay? All right, I'll push the magic button, use the same login, and we'll see you in a second. Good stuff so far, guys. Thank you. Oh, George, where's your beard gone, George? You.
Oh, I've decided to go naked.
All right.
After what was it, 17 years,
Wow.
I decided that I was hiding behind the whiskers and just took them off. So interesting. It was a hell of a shot the first time I looked in the mirror afterwards, mind you, I'll tell you. But I just decided to do it. So it's done now. So we'll see how long it lasts. But I didn't have whiskers while Margaret was alive, so I did it when she died.
Yeah.
And it just seemed, but I think it was a kind of defense of some sort. I'm not sure. Something about not wanting to face people on my own.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to get rid of them. But you'll notice I've got a different backdrop now because I had to move the computer because Zoom kept freezing on me. So it seems to be working okay now because I've moved right next to the router.
All right. Okay. How weird.
I'm completely shattered because I had to move all the furniture about and everything in order to do this. I'm getting beyond these stages. God, I went to buy something at Argos, and they brought out this 18-year-old girl who looked at me and said, "I'll carry both parcels." And I said, "No, I can manage one." And then when they got to the car, I thought, "Daft old bugger, you should just have said I'll carry both."
Oh well, we appreciate you moving the whole house around to join us this evening.
It's a slightly more sort of, there's more going on in the background now. So
it's only taken what?
It does look as though I don't actually live in a prison camp. So I do, of course, but I mean it doesn't look quite as though.
Wow. It's only taken 3 years, and we've got a new view of your insight into your world. Yeah. Oh well, we're all back in the room. We're back to you, George. If you've got
right.
words for us.
Well, I'm going to read something that I wasn't going to read. I hadn't even had any thought about reading, and I haven't. But because of John's poem about parenthood, I thought, oh God, I've lost the thing now. I thought I'd. What am I doing? Sorry. I've lost everything. Right. Because of John's poem, I hadn't intended to do this, but I will do this because it relates to parenthood. And this is for those. It's Auden. Was it Auden that did the verse, or was that Larkin? This be the verse. Whichever one of them did it. I know it's one of the two of them. This be the reverse. They fuck it up, sons and daughters. Sometimes by chance, sometimes they try, sometimes laughing at disasters, ignore advice as parents sigh. But parents guilty in their prime of screwing up their mum and dad, of making life a pantomime. And they did that? Oh yes, they did. Each generation fucks it up, discovers everything anew, but in the end they learn to cope, so just lie back and breed a few.
Yeah, that's Philip Larkin, isn't it?
I think it's Larkin. Yeah, it's Larkin.
They
It's
F you
Larkin.
up, your mum and dad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it was great, George. You really, undercut that. That's, yeah.
Can I tell you a story?
Go
Out
for
of
it. George.
turn, or do you want me to wait?
Please do.
This is following on from the parenting, because sometimes your own children can teach you things. And this was a life lesson that I was taught by the same granddaughter that turned my youngest son and his wife into a zombie. We were around there and we were playing, and she was potty training. She was at the age of potty training. And she stopped partway through our game. And she said, "I'm sorry, Granddad, I've got to go. I've got to go." So she diddled off to her potty. And then a few minutes later, she came back and she said, with an extremely serious face, she said, "Do you know something, Granddad? Sometimes when you think you want a poo, all you really want is a giant fart." And I thought, she's going to be a philosopher. Maybe that's the wrong kind of story for this audience.
No, that's the right kind of material for us, I'm afraid. That's the level.
Sorry, suddenly popped into my head, John, was the old Carry On film thing at the hospital with the guy shuffling across the floor saying, "I thought it was wind and I was wrong."
Oh dear. It doesn't usually go this way as early as this. Okay. Well, let's just move on to Jane and see what stories you've got to tell us. I mean,
I haven't got anything scatological like that at all. Nothing. I wrote this about 4 or 5 years ago. And it was really, I think it was about, I don't know what it's about really. It's about a lot of things. It's about social media and how that's going to affect what happens to us, traces of us. And, you know, you're not going to find letters wrapped up in, you know, in a ribbon in the attic anymore, are you? You know, things have changed. And I just wondered what will be left of us, what traces are left, what things are left behind. Anyway, it's called Facing Up. Some friends skulk and rarely tap or share, or like me sustain a tiptoe ego with hints and nods and winks and rants and what they ate in restaurants. They would hit hate if they could. Some think obnoxious makes you fascinating, or say in real life, you're online all the time. Is that a portal to a conversation or just a poke, an observation? A list here. My phone is just my little self, at arm's reach like a lifted child, pixelated but beguiled, recorded in my every guise at breakfast and on my bleakest watch, when I misplace me My big self erases. I am my own panoptic Tamagotchi. Posts and shares are like they always were in the dark days, landing on the mat. Friends and family pass by the window. I am reading and writing in the same place they all are. They ding in. I wave as they go by. I trust myself with this. Why try to catch them when they're gone, or the moment's cold, in that designated hour before and after paid work, or when your partner's light goes out? Quality time. Things they post reflect them. Individually, strangely, non-eclectic, predictable, enigmatic, Tarkovsky and come dancing, dancing babies, dogs that walk and cry and fear cats, or walk off and are advertised with troubled eyes on mountainsides. We are as we are when someone's looking. All my pictures are my pets. Feel the friends feeling they are stridently for. Scroll those churning, yearning would-be, ignore. Black, black, blackmail. They plead. This is me, plaintively. You can't see it, but I'm sick. Riposte, repost who loves me most. I know who'll hug me. I know you won't. Memorials, tutorials, cracker mottos relax out of their tubes, littering and saving 9. I'll find a glittering, crackling poem in the snow. Even in the unbelieving age, I think of it like a child's heaven, a Rubicon to navigate, dabbing an emoticon, Jesus and St. Nicholas having a 50s black and white Christmas. Have I been good? Am I good enough? When I was young, before Apple and Jihad, it used to hover near Jerusalem, but now it lingers somewhere over California and uncommonly precipitates in the common tunnel where loved ones wait. In the widest charnel space, you smile, cry, embrace, touch fingers, stretch to your best friend. Over the close heads with more closeness and more claim, will we make lay girls angels in the long, long grass again? Your mother will give me some rue. Forgive me my meritocracy and Prozac when all she had was socks and bootstraps to pull up. Your boyish father, twice awaited from war and from longevity, looks rushed and wary and away, as if he'd scrambled up an orchard wall. That blown-off arm he picked up on a phantom hill is reunited with its Polish man, who would have liked that little life in a South Coast 30s terrace with a strict wife, a sole toxemic pregnancy, and a subscription to my weekly, full of ends to make meet and patterns to follow. I worry as I used to, then as now, that God would see me, through me, even in my thinking place with a solid 40-foot of brick vertically between us, beneath the basement lintel, or have seen my Halloween brow and chin betrayed by the torch of my inky screen, with its competing intel and sucked up, tucked up transfigurations. And what next if these got in God's good eye on his wrong side? That is an overwhelming walk. Maybe the length and space of a nearby town, and then what? Could I have the conversations I have had and should have had, singling out a clawing hand and running hand in hand to some field's corner, some abandoned summer van? Could we do childless, reckless adult things? Would we be where the border is, or are the shifts and gaps unsutured episodic slides? Would shades of opinion be there or in the other queue? Will the pate of French philosophy gleam like an ostrich egg and poets spread evenings around their shivering frames? Will she choose me who middle-marched my fresher week, her wet ghost of a husband at her side, recovered from the Grand Canal and the purgatory of her unused belly skin? And is that heaven or is this hell? Would I be ticking off the names of mentors and tormentors and picking through the pelts of dogs and cats, serried bones beneath the back fence uploaded, those I loved or loathed back then? Will I even like them now? What about that pilot whale I saved, the size and strop of a 3-year-old? Will it come washed from the pod, or with streaming gravelled eyes and bloodied fins? A bird in barbed wire marks its spot. I don't search those parts now. I left them to the tide with petitions that I didn't sign. The everyday that stays, every day that's left, was it only yesterday? On the news, or news feed, or 40 years ago, breaking, paraded by ticker tape? It depends. That girl who double dipped with me in a dance hall mirror, who shared the secret of her taut shine, To wash with soap and leave a trace is clearly mine, alone. I do not share her except here. Where? All those I would have hurt if I could have got away with it. Will they be there? These can be shared. The airmen who flew broken jets with tired and broken men to broken homes to break them. The boy dead beneath his father's wing. The crushed child of the dolorous breast. The mother who collects her dead son's thin shirt from a hotel chest. The farmer with a ruined crop in Gaza. Those untagged rows of calloused toes and soles struck to sandals. Will we meet on a ledge in paradise? Are they coming to my parade? And will I cross a firework bridge? Can I have conversations into the night, share beds and woods with former lovers? Will they talk with one another or not even see each other? Will I be exposed for the roving river I once was? How much will I hide or be hidden away from my line of time? Will they stalk and haunt me? Will the ones I want most make it here? No profile, no cover, just silhouettes and shades. And once those initial rent greetings are exhausted, we've written as exhorted on each other's page, extorted our hit, miss and kiss and then unfriended. Should I stay and or be a former user, save again that wired bird, save and rage? Do these things at my shoulders hurt and are they heavy? Will my tuneless, tubeless voice be raised and lost within an endless choir? Or will I be required to sing solo and be heard above the noise? Or am I even now alone and a cappella? Oh, it's long.
Wow.
Poem.
Wow.
Sorry, that was really long. I don't remember it being that long. Need an edit.
Wow, there was so much in there. Wow. When did you say that was a couple of years ago you wrote that?
Oh, it's 4 or 5 years ago. It's pre-pandemic. It was just I don't know. I think again, it's about you know, you lose people and you lose things and places and you just think, what is your trace really? What's left? I don't know. Yeah, stream of consciousness, rubbish really.
Well, it's pretty
But I had to
good,
find a poem, right?
Wow, that was great. Whew, you get all sorts on these sessions. That's great. All right. Well, from something from 4 or 5 years ago to something I wrote this afternoon. This is the penultimate installment of everyone's favorite vigilante penguin investigator, Penguin. And yeah, I gotta remember all the voices. Here we go. Goes something like this. Previously on Kung Fu Penguin. Former cellmate and friend Larry the Lemur called on everyone's favorite private investigator to tell him about this girl, Tina, a magical dancer he'd fallen for during a hit he'd been hired to carry out on a Mississippi steamboat owned by a crook who was in over his head. Larry asked Kung Fu Penguin to try and track down the dancer and gave him a lead that skullduggery was afoot at City Hall. Something to do with the mayor, a new construction project, and a possible assassination. At City Hall, Kung Fu Penguin met struggling theatre impresario Louis King before examining the plans for the Sea Life Research Center, which seemed to have some unusual storage units. He was then mistaken for a mysterious character that the mayor was expecting. Kung Fu Penguin met the mayor's PA, Marty, and she introduced him to the obnoxious B.A. Boone, property tycoon and outgoing mayor, who was trying to push through his crooked plans and make certain that the new mayor doesn't scupper his plans by hiring the so-called asthmatic assassin to take him out. I mean, you thought Jane's story was long. This is going to go on forever, okay? Mistaking Kung Fu Penguin for the asthmatic assassin, B.A. Boone outlines his plan to house a massive cannabis farm beneath the Marine Institute and Visitor Center, and has a large briefcase full of money to pay for the hit. The real hitman turns up and Kung Fu Penguin is discovered. After using Kung Fu and trying to fight his way out, in a desperate bid to escape from the conspirators, he is forced to make a daring escape. And now, the penultimate installment picks up where we left our hero last time. Surrounded by shards of glass, Kung Fu Penguin was jumping out of a window from the office of the outgoing mayor, B.A. Boone, on the 20th floor of City Hall. I fell through the air, tumbling into the void of nothingness, the wind rushing by quickly. The end seemed only moments away before, with a thud, I landed on something. Whatever it was had broken my fall, and luckily not broken anything else. I've got to think of a voice. Hey, buddy, watch it. What the hell's all this broken glass? Grumbled the voice. I looked around, and to my surprise I was stood on a small steel gantry which was suspended over the side of the building. It was a window cleaning cradle, and the hard-working window cleaner was squirreling away. A bucket of soapy water stood at his feet beside a squeegee, sponge, and various cloths. I'm alive! We both looked up at the broken pane of glass a couple of floors above us. Oh crap, you've bust that window. The new mayor is going to be pissed right off. I didn't realize that when the new mayor said he was going to clean up City Hall, he meant it so literally. The window cleaner shrugged. Yeah, well, no. He doesn't like people calling it Shitty Hall. Oh, he doesn't? Nope. Wants people to call it the Civic Center. Somehow I think he'll be stuck with Shitty Hall. Maybe. Does this thing go down by any chance? I mean, it's nice being up here talking to you, and I'm very grateful for you saving my life and all that, but I do have one or two things to do. Sure thing. Okay, hang on. We're going down. Within a couple of minutes, the cradle had lowered down the height of the building, and we reached the ground. I hopped out and thanked him again. I gave him a crisp 20 for his trouble. Just as I was walking down the steps of City Hall, I passed a rather thin-looking grey saloon. No, a rather plain-looking grey saloon. I heard the door open and felt a presence behind me before a shadow loomed over me. Freeze, buddy! Yelled a voice which seemed very familiar. I turned around and recognized her straight away, the hardest working cop on the force. D.I. Snow Leopard, still working for the drug squad? That's right, Penguin. Now, why would you be jumping out of a window on the 20th floor of City Hall? It looks like the mayor's office. It's a long story, but I'd be more than happy to tell it to you. And then we segue into the musical number. I'm trying to find an answer to an ongoing quarrel. You can search around for a reason. It don't have to be ethical, and it don't have to be moral. Can you ever really fix a broken heart? And do you light a fire without a single spark? And can you put a genie back in the bottle? Can you put a genie back in his bottle? There'll be a little harmonica bit. I'll do that in post. There'll be harmonica. I might have found out a secret that's never been told. But if you don't protect me, I won't live till the end of the day, let alone to be old. And can you ever really fix a broken heart? And do you light a fire without a single spark? Can you put a genie back in the bottle? Can you put a genie back in his bottle? Oh, got this. Not a harmonica, but it's close enough. If you go up to the 20th floor now, you'll find the players in this conspiracy. Heck, I'll even decide to testify. So go round to them, go round them up, and there'll be no need for anyone to die. Can you ever really fix a broken heart? Do you light a fire without a single spark? Can you put a genie back in a bottle? Can you put a genie back in the bottle? Just what are you doing here? I asked, starting to sense that this was more than a coincidence. A part of a narcotics investigation. We got some questions, all about links between B.A. Boone and a certain small-time dealer down Mississippi way. Someone put a hit out on this cat, who was a pillar of the criminal fraternity down there. The trail leads here. There's one person who might have access to all the information. The outgoing mayor's PA. So we're lying in wait for Ms. Boone to take a lunch break. Every day, she goes to a little cafe. Just as the detective spoke, the ever-efficient mayor's aide stepped out of the glass door and skipped down the steps of City Hall. In her hand, she carried a familiar-looking case. And there she is now, carrying that big black bag, which I think you'll find is full of money. Okay, fellas, the detective ordered sternly. D.I. Snow Leopard and a unit approached the startled young woman. Miss Boone? The cop asked politely. Yeah, Lonnie replied, startled. The detective flashed her badge. D.I. Snow Leopard, Narcotics Division. Would you mind accompanying us down to the station? I think you can help us with our inquiries. The PA just nodded her head. Whatever game she was playing, it looked to be entering the final stages. Go get Boone and his associates. It's time we ended this, D.I. Snow Leopard growled. 6 of the cops rushed inside the building and went to pay the outgoing mayor a visit. Marty was escorted to a waiting cop car, and then she and the bag of money disappeared inside. You too, Penguin, muttered the detective. You're coming with us. Will Kung Fu Penguin and the cops get to the bottom of what is going on and get B.A. Boone and his cronies put away? Find out next time in the final installment of Kung Fu Penguin. There you are. You're very kind and patient. Thank you. All right. Who's next? Roz, I think.
You Phil, you're mad as a chair. You are.
Mm-hmm.
You really are.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Well, that's
Kung
wonderful.
Fu Penguin just takes the biscuit.
Hey,
Chocolate. Yeah.
if anybody has questions, I can go through all the references at some point if that's really bugging people, or if you know.
Right.
Roz.
After that, I'm going to be short. This best way. I'm going to do the one I did. Was it last Wednesday when we had Poets Out Loud? Yeah. And I wrote this the day before, and I was thinking, I'll do a bit of automatic writing because I sat down with an open book and thought, what the knitting the word am I going to write? And this came out. It's called Freudian Art. With a notebook, a pen, and hope, words start to tumble, splash across the page. Organic, natural, unguarded. Free-falling thoughts, ideas, like surrealist automism, where the subconscious, laid bare, expresses a revelatory truth, crafted by the inner creative life. Then are these unstructured, incoherent thoughts without resolution art? That is the question. Is this nonsense or is it poetry? And that's the whole of my subconscious on a plate.
Yeah, it's a fine line between random ideas and random thoughts and poetry. But it's good. Thank you. And yeah, that was an appropriate piece to follow Kung Fu Penguin with. All right. John, we're with you again.
I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a picture of Marsden Rocks before and after. When I was a little lad, it was like the one at the top. In 1996, it was like the one in the middle. And because of health and safety, it's now like that. Because we as human beings felt we couldn't leave a rock that looked a bit unstable, so we blew it up. So this is about Marsden Rocks. tidal caves to explore, worn stone smooth by the shouts and feet of pirates, smugglers, and their watchful mothers. And then the sea crashing, rising in white, salty fountains of spray, the diurnal wind-driven tides, the onlooking moon. My belief in the everlasting nature of water and stone was shattered by the noise of broken waves, broken stone, and a collapsing arch that was supposed to stand as an outpost of the land, sentry to memory for the returning prodigal searching for stability. Now the new view is home to new feet dashing upon Marsden rocks of pirates and smugglers and their watchful mothers. So it was just an idea that some things change and some things don't. Mums never stop looking after their kids or watching what they're up to, but rocks can collapse into the sea when you don't expect them to. Thank you very much.
It's funny how attached we get to landmarks and nature and things, isn't it? It's, thank you very much, John. Okay, we're back with Val. Do you have another one for us, Val?
Yeah, yeah, you get a nice view of the Lakeland Hills from Ross's house, and it reminds me of this poem I wrote a while ago now. It's called Lakeland Memories. The view from the hill is both beautiful and still. Some solitary birds fly by across a cloudless wintry sky, and the pale blue lake of glass reflects their shadows as they pass. On the hillside, fluffy sheep settle down to sleep, and a shepherd wends his way at the end of a lonely day. It's a childhood scene painted in my mind. Whoever thought I'd grow old and blind? That's it, short and sweet.
Wow. You had this really sweet thing going on, and then you kind of like changed it right at the end with this brutal take on it. Yeah.
It was a bit brutal, yeah.
No, yeah. No, you see, you lull us in like that, Val. You think, oh, there's Val. You've got sweet little
Yeah.
poems, and then there's something that'll just kick you. Yeah. Thank you. It's good. We're back with Graham. What you got for us?
This may or may not be autobiographical. I decided I would write a poem that rhymed, which is unusual for me. So it must be a poem if it rhymes. The lack of love is like a disease. It will break your heart, bring you to your knees. The lack of love is clear to see. When you're without love, you cease to be. The lack of love is a broken chain. It will cripple you, cause you pain. The lack of love is a bitter pill, destroys your soul, makes you ill. The lack of love's a mortal sin, robs you blind, does you in. The lack of love will take your life, steal your children, leave your wife. The lack of love will torture you, steal your voice, obscure your view. The lack of love is always bad, trips you up, turns you mad. The lack of love invades your night, shuts you off and out of sight. The lack of love will hide the truth. I know the signs. I'm living proof. The end. I wrote that yesterday.
Yeah, yeah. It felt kind of raw, that.
Is it? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's good.
perhaps.
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah.
But what do folk think about poetry and rhyming? I mean, I did make that comment in the first poem I wrote about writing poetry. That a lot of people who don't write poetry think poetry has to rhyme. Do other folk consciously try to write poems that rhyme, or consciously not to write poems that rhyme, or do you never think about it?
I think it depends on the poem.
Do
Sometimes.
whatever you feel like.
Yeah.
I would
I've got
do
a
whatever
poem
you
about
feel
it
like.
somewhere. I've got a poem about whether it should rhyme or not, but I haven't brought it today.
I like half rhymes and internal rhymes, but I find that mostly rhyming is something I would avoid, actually.
Yeah.
Generally I would as well.
Yeah, I think so.
I think the poem tells you whether it wants to rhyme or not.
Yeah, maybe actually. Yeah. Sometimes rhymes come in poems and you don't really want them. They just come there. Yeah, I agree.
Sometimes
it can all kind of revolve around one word. If you get one word and you think, oh, that rhymes with such and such, you think, oh, well, I could write another line that rhymes with that one and miss a line rhymes with that one. So it can literally be on the turn of one word. If you like a word that rhymes with something else.
Sometimes
I have rhymes in my head all the time. I wake up with rhymes when I'm, eating my dinner. I have
Do you write them down?
Not always. I write them down more now because I used to think people think I'm completely bonkers, and I used to just wow. But now it's like I've said before. I write them down and read them to you now because what else can you do with them?
Yeah. I quite like sonnets because it gives you an excuse to rhyme. If you're a poet who doesn't normally rhyme and you've got a form that uses rhyme, that's actually quite liberating.
I don't really like structure. I don't really like being told that there should be a certain way of writing a poem. I know a lot of people particularly do like, there are different types of poetry, and you can go to classes to learn how to write poetry. But most of my poems, because I don't consider myself to be a page poet, I'm more a spoken word poet, if indeed I am even a poet. I like to play about with form. Sometimes even when it looks like it's going to rhyme, I would purposely make sure it doesn't rhyme.
Yeah.
I just don't like the idea of form. I think that, to me, poetry is all about lack of form.
I think that it has to have something that makes it a poem and not just words cut into lines. It's got to have something that says this is a poem and not just like prose, like just broken up into separate lines.
Well, a lot of modern poetry, a lot of spoken word poetry is kind of like prose. And it's called poetry. I mean, a lot of long form poems that you might go and see if you go to like a poetry event, you'll have people doing like 10-minute poems, and it's basically a story, which storytelling.
But surely it's got
poetic.
to have something in it that makes it a poem.
Is
and
it a
not
poem?
Story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think at all.
Does it matter?
I think if you're writing something that's looser, if you're writing poetry, it doesn't need to rhyme to be a poem. In fact, people who write poetic prose, it's completely different to a poem. It's you just know if something's a poem or it isn't. I think it's very definite that, and it has nothing to do with rhyming. Absolutely nothing.
You actually used the word I was going to use there, poetic.
But you actually use the phrase poetic prose. So even if it's prose, it's still got to be poetic. You can't just read something and say, because I've read it in lines, it's now a poetry.
Yeah.
You've got to have something in it that makes it poetic. Yeah, that's all.
I think I've actually written something somewhere, a poem somewhere about this. That is a pointless argument. I think this is it just wastes time. If you're expressing an idea and someone gets the idea, if you say it's a poem, it's a poem. If they think it's a poem, it's a poem. If they don't think it's a poem, it's not a poem. Why get hung up about it? I mean, I go and see films and I think some of them are absolute crap. That doesn't mean is it still a film just because I don't like it? No, so.
John, we've got 1 minute.
I've written a poem. I've written a poem in answer to Graham's question. It's called "That's Not a Poem." This is a poem called That's Not a Poem. That's not a poem. It doesn't rhyme. If you must write a poem, then at least do me the courtesy of a rhyme. Even if it isn't a rhyme, understand what you're on about. I can still appreciate a clever rhyme. You could at least have tried. Would it have killed you?
Probably.
Yeah, yes, it
Yeah.
would have.
Would it kill you?
Yes, absolutely.
We've got less than a minute, so we're probably going to sign out any minute, but use the same login. We pick up this interesting discussion in the next bit. Yeah. That's
I'm going to put a light on as well.
okay. That's
I don't know how you're going to finish Kung Fu Penguin. In fact, I don't know how I'm going to sleep until I know.
oh, you'll have to tune in next month, John, and then you'll find out how Kung Fu Penguin resolves itself. If you know, please send me the answers on the postcard.
Graham, I tell you what I really don't like, and that is forced rhyme. You know, it really, when you know that somebody's like inverted English in order to get the right word at the end of the sentence to
Oh, I
force a
know.
rhyme, it's like, whoa, that's, you tried too hard there. You should have just left it.
Well, I'm not going to name names, but there's somebody in Dumfries where I am. I maybe should have said that. I'm in Dumfries at the moment. Who English is not his first language, so that maybe is an excuse. However, all his poems are desperately hurtling towards a rhyme. He's got a word. He knows it's a poem, so he knows it has to rhyme, but it doesn't matter how many lines it takes him to get there. He has to rhyme, you know, whatever that word is with whatever that word is, and it's ridiculous. You know it's coming, and it's almost like, come on, give me the rhyme. Thank you. I mean, it's awful. And, I mean, he's a lovely fellow, and to use that horrible, one of the worst phrases in the English language, he means well. But yeah, just this hurtling towards trying to find that rhyme is ridiculous. Because the poem actually, if he took the rhymes out of the poems, or some of the rhymes out of the poems, and didn't go on this marathon run to get through as many rhymes as he can, it'd probably be all right. It'd be much more bearable. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I think you're right. The poems either know if they want to rhyme or they don't. Yeah, if it's a poem, I like, as the lad Craig comes along to SpeakEasy sometimes, and he's got a poem where he says, I can tell this is a poem because the words don't go all the way across to the other side of the page. That's his first. You're reading poetry, and yeah, I think there was something else.
I had an arch nemesis, or a guy that the very first time I went to a writers group, there was a bloke who actually said, if it rhymes, it must have rhythm, and if it doesn't have rhythm, it mustn't rhyme. And I fought with him at the time. And it was the first time I'd ever been out in public. I came home and sat that night just about weeping in my hands, thinking, what? I don't know anything about poetry. What right did I to say that? And then I thought, but what are you? You actually decide what is and is not poetry. And I went back to apologise to the group. I thought I'll go back and apologise to them and leave. And they all said, thank God you turned up. He keeps thinking he's God about poetry, and no one's ever had the nerve to challenge him about everything in their life before. And I just think that's why I said I think it's a pointless argument. I think just write what you want to write, and then just, if you wanted to rhyme it. If you don't want it to rhyme, don't rhyme it. You know, see, yeah. Sorry, that's just a personal view.
It's a bit like art, isn't it? I mean, it's like, what is art? You know, but it's what anybody wants it to be or not. You know?
Well, that is one of the things that I was saying in my initial poem about it, you know, art being subjective, but that kind of communal aspect when you're in a public setting, that a lot of people, when they're in a room with other people, they seem to think that there should be a certain form, a certain way of doing things, and if you don't conform to that, they'll be thinking, what's going on here? rightly or wrongly.
Yeah.
I did once listen to a 20-minute poem about a bloody cat. It didn't rhyme. It went on for 20 minutes, and after about the first 4 minutes, I felt like standing up and shouting, "Just kill the fucking thing!" Excuse my language, but I mean,
No,
it was
it's
just
all right.
insane.
Oh, we're gonna get everyone to swear tonight. That would be really cool.
You don't need to try hard with me.
Oh, but you're usually on your best behavior, George, so we'll let you off. Who were we up to? I've forgotten where we were.
I just want to ask Graham why he thinks that rhyme destroys a poem. You're saying if it rhymes, it's not good enough. Is that what you were saying? Or have I misunderstood?
I think you misunderstood. I don't think I said that at all.
I think it was. I think it was the perception by other people that rhyming was the only form of poetry that is acceptable. Whereas there's a lot.
Yeah, because
Right.
to most people, and certainly the way it's generally taught in schools, well, taught in school in Scotland anyway, is that a poem is a thing that, where words don't go to the end of the line, they tend to rhyme.
Yeah. Just
Hey,
anything that makes poetry. It's all right. I'm just going to go off on one in a minute.
Go
I
on.
think I'll shut up. I know too much about this to.
it's interesting. It's really interesting, but it's
philosophy of art. It's part of my OU, and a lot of it was on the written word, not just pictorial art. And the basic thing that we began with is what is art and what is poetry, and all the same sort of questions. And basically, I think you have a certain practice and consistency in what it is, but it doesn't matter, because if you come up with something new, they'll call you original, not art, or you can come up with something totally old-fashioned. It really doesn't matter, because none of it. It's about perception and people's
exactly.
ongoing, like the canon of art. It's a thing, but it doesn't denote what future art is or anything. So you can do what you want, basically, like George said.
I like that. You can do what you want. That's really cool. Should we get back on track? This has been fascinating, but it's something of a tangent.
When you actually see a picture that is art, everybody goes, "That's art," and not one of those people that goes, "That's art," knows what they're talking about.
Well, they're all
none
different.
of them can tell you what art is.
It's different to everybody.
Yeah, the same with poetry.
Yeah.
You can say, "That's a poem, that is poetry. We went to a poetry night," but nobody can tell you what they went to, because it's indefinable.
Yeah.
I think it might be me, Phil.
Is it? I could be.
I think it might be, because I was actually thinking I'm going to follow in from something that, because Graham's poem was about the loss of love. If I remember correctly, way back at the start of all this, the poem that he just finished was about loss of love. And then Jane also mentioned in the course of talking about rhyming poetry that she quite likes the idea of a sonnet. So this is something that I wrote actually just about a week ago, which is a sonnet on love, or is it? The title of the sonnet is "Why Seek a Lover?" How often I bemoan about the loss, as if it was ordained it should be mine. How selfish are the lovers in their prime. I see their tenderness, and I am cross. No one has gazed at me with such a look. Would thaw my frozen heart, have it explode with all the passions I once had, and goad me to all that foolishness I forsook when I started this solitary life. But do I really want those nights of lust? Is loneliness not better than that pain? The constant need to torture on that knife, with doubts that all is slipping into dust? For those in love are also those insane.
Now we're going to analyze all the rhymes and everything, George. I mean, you've left yourself open to. that now.
It is a sonnet. I'll tell you, it is a sonnet. It's ABBA, CDDC, DEF, DEF,
Yeah.
if you would. But you don't read it like that, of course. That's one of the problems I have with people that do rhyming poetry, is that quite often they will read the line and emphasize the rhyme. If you read it just as you would speak it, it's up to the person then to look at it on the page. Ideally, if you look at, and I would suggest that, Graham, look at Douglas Dunn's elegies. They're phenomenal rhyming poetry. You'll get to the end of it. If you're like me, I read his poem, got to the end, a number of his poems, got to the end of it and suddenly thought, good God, these are bloody sonnets, and it frickin' rhymes. But the emotion that he carries in that poem transcends the poetry, if you like. Or it's beyond the art. It's just, anyway, I'm such a fan of that I should shut up now.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. Jane, we're back with you. Do you have another one for us?
Yeah. I rather worry as I write most poetry without rhyming. I would hate anybody to think I wasn't making the effort and that I didn't know how to rhyme. So I'll read a rhyming poem, a sonnet. This was, I think, I can't remember quite. I think it was a theme that was given to us to write a sonnet. It was the colour red. And because I'm not very good at constraint, I called the poem Not Yet Red and mixed it with all colours instead. Oh, I just rhymed. Right. Not yet red. In your dark vein, deep with green, my kin, and browning blood holes of my vampire sleep, it swims up slow beneath your duck egg skin, and peristaltic worms farm its stalled creep. It used to be the fireflakes in the hearth with yellow, hedgerow of browsing fingers, trickled in honeysuckle, and some part pales in brick dust where your trail still lingers. With blue shrugged on thin rails, it dares old age, uncertain instep dragged upward into dance, breaks eye white with old tears, corrects the page, your cheeks, chin and lips in the cold's advance, like unripe hips in August, rived by thaw, not red just yet, and one day read no more. She can rhyme. She can do it.
Yeah, thank you very much. And that was a lot shorter than the last one, wasn't it? A woman of many talents.
I listen to a lot of 20-minute pieces, Phil, a lot.
I know. Not all of them are about penguins, though, are they? Some of them are about chicken pox and things like that. Anyway, thank you very much. It's interesting. Yeah, this is great. Graham, you've provoked an interesting debate amongst everybody tonight. This is really fantastic. So, yeah. Are we up for going around one more time? Yeah? One more time? Have we got one more point? Yeah? Okay, cool. All right. Well, I've got this one. It's called Dominoes, and there's a bit of rhyming going on, and then, but I couldn't get everything to rhyme all the time because I couldn't think. It's called Dominoes. It goes like this. I think there's a bit of Bob Dylan in this as well. God knows you're playing dominoes with my emotions. Don't try and trick me with any of your magic potions. You set me up and stand me to attention. You don't play by the rules, you heed to your own conventions. I start to think maybe we're going to play around. Then you knock me down and I tumble to the ground. There's quite a lot of rhyming. Everything runs away from me at a million billion miles. It's kind of frightening, the way my feelings are slipping and sliding. I'm all for adventure, but I've no map, and the signposts are all taken down. Meanwhile, you upped and moved on to the next game in town. You're trying to find a tune to play. I'm carefully picking what words to say. You really are a pain in the arts, especially playing with a deck full of hearts. You may be playing emotional roulette. One of these days it may just backfire, but it ain't happened yet. And if it gets all too much, you can't just box it up and put it away. You gotta be careful with the games that you play. And that's that. Was a lot of rhyming there, actually, more than I remembered when I wrote it. But yeah, small words that tumble from my mind. All right, thank you. Roz, we're back with you.
I don't know what to do now.
Join the club.
I just turned the page and got this one, which is a bit like the one I just did actually before. Yeah, where I sat, but this time with an open computer, and this one doesn't rhyme. Called Hope and Memory. I hoped I could begin again, write a better poem. So I opened a new page, white on blue, with the faculty to create my mark. Nothing except a little black line that flashes at me, impatient to start. But I pause and contemplate the empty page, this void where the contents of my mind will be visible momentarily in the ether of the digital world. I have not got a pen or even a piece of paper. Is it possible I can create something more substantial, real? My prodigy will live only fleetingly on the screen, no more than a passing thought without a physical identity. It will join its predecessor as already gone. It will only ever have been. No more than a human life we have memorialized in stone can have a future. It will become a thing of the past. Memory. Memory and hope surround us, but the only certainty is what is now. Nothing except the little black line that flashes at me, impatient to get to the finish. And that was that.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah. There were places where I thought it was going to rhyme, it didn't rhyme, and then yeah. And you're writing about writing poetry. That's like how the evening started off. Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, we're back with John. Do you have another one for us? John?
This doesn't rhyme.
That's okay. We don't have to apologize about whether they rhyme or not. I mean, we're getting a bit paranoid now about whether we rhyme or not.
I wanted to send out a rhyme warning, which is obviously a new thing now. This is a no rhyme warning. What I wanted to do with this is I just wanted to see if you could use words to capture the essence of a place. I'm not sure I have, but this poem is about nothing other than trying to capture a little bit of an essence of a place. And the place is St. Mary's Island over in the northeast. Jellyfish left stranded upon the sand are starstruck in surprise. Hermit crabs swap houses, mortgage-free in rock pools. Dry shells are collected, sorted, glued to be reborn as souvenirs, more wholesome than the postcards that shout their saucy messages in primary colours. There, tidally approachable, stands the extinguished, unlaunched lighthouse, staring upwards at what might have been. Gulls cry against the quieting shush of the shingle. The crashing waves lifts the taste of the salty air to cold noses, open mouths, while the sea breeze plays with the hairs on your arms. Here is the world around St. Mary's Lighthouse, where the light flickers, playing tricks as the tides turn, and the causeway deepens, then clears, deepens, then clears, and the tides turn. So it was just to try and say something about place.
Yeah, it was very evocative. You managed.
I'm not sure it works, but it was like an experiment in trying to do that.
Yeah, you conjured up quite a lot of the atmosphere of the place. I think I felt like, yeah, like the sea spray and the lighthouse and everything. Yeah, I think that it was a good experiment to try that.
And don't forget the saucy postcards.
Oh, who could?
Critical in Whitley Bay, the saucy postcards.
Well, I think I know someone who'd be a big fan.
I was only young. I wasn't allowed to approach. You know, they had them outside the shops, had them on these rotating things, and on one side there would be scenes of St Mary's Lighthouse, and I would be looking at them, and some passerby would flick the thing round, and it would teach me lessons I was far too young to learn.
Have you been back recently then?
They've closed the shop.
Oh,
come on.
Oh, what?
But there are, there are other shops.
Oh, good.
You can still get the postcards.
Oh, good. I get that details.
A friend told me that you can still get the postcards.
Yeah. Thank you, John. Okay, Val, have you got another one for us, Val?
Yeah, well, I found this poem I wrote a while back. It's called To Rhyme or Not to Rhyme, brackets, that is the question. And it's a poem within a poem. Does a poem have to rhyme, have form and structure every time? Or can we let the words flow free? Is that just prose or poetry? So paint a picture with your words of hills and trees, flowers and birds. Use alliteration and assonance to make words come alive and dance. So to show you what I mean, here's a pretty lakeland scene. Pretty pink poppies prance in the breeze. Wind whispers through the wispy willows. Languid lakes lap laconically on the shore. Birds are tweeting, sheep are bleating, frogs are leaping, hedgehogs sleeping, untroubled by bombs and the cost of living. There you go. Take a pick, whether to rhyme or not to rhyme.
Yeah, great. And you did that again with this, really sweet poem, and then the last line comes through with a message. That's clever. Thank you, Val. That's really good. That should be a motto, really, for us. Thank you. Okay. Graham, what have you got for us?
Okay. This is probably my most performed poem. I think it's controversial because of the reactions I've got from it from audiences, but no one's ever challenged me on it, so I don't actually know. So when I read it, you can maybe tell me afterwards what you think of it politically. It's on trend, as they say, and it goes like this. I am not proud to be a cis male, nor am I ashamed, nor should I be blamed for being normal. A formal appellation, by no means an affirmation, as normal means nothing at all. I am who I am. I don't need a label because I'm unable to fit in. I'm as different as you are, but with tags so new that no one knows which letter to choose to describe who I am. I'm this man, not cis man. I'm me. I'm whoever I want to be. I don't have to conform to society's norm. I can be proud of my deeds. My emotional needs are my own, homegrown. I am willing to accept that my sisters and brothers and others are people, not letters or labels. So remember, we're all in this together, whatever the weather. The end. Well, thank you. One time I performed that in Edinburgh, there was literally silence.
Why do you think it's controversial?
Well, because of the subject matter. The subject matter obviously is, of particular contemporary political, what's the word, diatribe, and I could believe that some people might be offended by it. Now, whether people are offended by it is neither here nor there. I know what I'm trying to say. And this kind of ties back in with what I was saying in the first poem I wrote about people perhaps not listening and only hearing what they want to hear. And I kind of feel sometimes people think because he's talking about this, he must be a certain type of person.
But if we tried to write things that offended nobody, we would not write anything.
Well, that's right. And the whole point of this poem is actually to not be offensive. It's all, I mean, the original title of it, and it might not mean anything with an English audience, is We're All Jock Townsend's Bairns, which, if you do know who Jock Townsend's Bairns are, knows that it's all about us, a man's a man for all that. We're all in this together. We're all the same, whatever the weather, to quote myself. But having that kind of opinion might be seen to be controversial. But as I say, no one has challenged me on it. But I am aware from the reaction that people maybe do feel challenged by it.
I think we're all getting so sensitive that we can be sitting in an audience waiting for someone to applaud so we can decide whether we want to join in or not.
Yeah.
It's got to an absolutely crazy level.
The whole topics become so difficult to even discuss.
Yeah.
Because if you begin to speak, somebody will jump down your throat who thinks you're saying something else, and the whole thing has become toxic, really.
Well, that's my point. I mean, most of the poetry events I've been to have been with. I mean, I'm in my 50s, but most poetry audiences I've read to are probably to people in their 20s and 30s. I've done a couple of student events, and I'm aware, obviously, this audience tonight is somewhat older, if I may say that. So
I'm offended.
Seasons.
Are you offended?
That was more controversial.
Well, I set out to be offensive. I set out to be offensive. But so I am aware that different demographics have different reactions to the same thing. But because we also know this to be true, because they haven't got a keyboard in front of them, they can't opine an opinion. So no one has ever come up to me and called me a transphobe. But I am certain that there will be people in the audience who think that poem is transphobic, but it's completely the opposite of transphobic.
Yeah, that's really interesting that nobody said anything.
But people don't, and particularly with the young folk, because everything they say is on their phone. They're not going to come up to you and say, "Excuse me, but I'm really offended by that," or the equivalent. I mean, maybe they go home and maybe I'm all over Instagram being tweeted and whatever, saying, "Yeah, this weirdy beardy guy with a twirly moustache. I don't know how old he is, but he looks like my granddad. He came across with all this rubbish about he's a transphobe. We should cancel him. We shouldn't have him next time. He's a bastard." But they're never going to say that. I'm waiting to be insulted. I want somebody to come up to me and insult me, but nobody's done it yet. I'm quite offended.
we could have arranged that at SpeakEasy for you if you wanted. I mean, I thought it was a really interesting piece, and I think people listened to it because, as you say, people don't always listen when it's this subject because it's so impassioned. Their opinions about it are so impassioned. And
I mean, I certainly think interesting. I think the source, like the Stove in Dumfries, where I often do stuff, are places that probably are, let's say more inclusive, I guess is the word. So it's interesting. I wonder what some of the younger folk who were at the source when I did this last time thought of it. But as I say, they're not going to come and say. Maybe I'm that scary. Maybe they're scared of me. Maybe that's what it is.
Well, maybe they're in the sort of place where they go, that's the guy's opinion, and he's entitled to that.
Yeah. Or maybe.
In private, they'll be going, he's wrong, but I
Yeah.
don't know. But you know, yeah. I mean, you make a lot of valid points in it, and yeah, I would. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from, where certain people might think it was offensive, but I think when you look at the totality of what you're talking about, I think there's a reasoned argument and explanation there. So I don't think it's something you could be
Well, I mean, politically, it's
Yeah.
the notion of united we stand, divided we fall. That's basically what the poem is about.
Yeah.
That we should be. That phrase of, "Oh, we're all in this together." Well, we should all be in this together, whether we are or not. We should be all in this together. We should all be there for the collective good. Okay, this is getting a bit socialist now. We should all be there in the collective good of everybody. And I feel a lot of this language around language is actually divisive, and actually is pulling us apart. Which well, maybe I'm getting political here, but I personally think that during COVID and post-COVID, when this conversation has reared its head, whether that head is ugly or not, depends on your opinion, has come to the fore. And I personally think there is a suggestion that it is about dividing us. That this conversation has been spiked for people who wish to divide us, so that we are no longer, because during COVID, I thought we were going to, or I thought there was a possibility that post-COVID, we could live in a, I'm not going to use the word utopia, but we could live in a more utopian society where people during COVID seem to care about one another in a way that, well, we didn't before. And unfortunately, because of the bounce back, possibly don't again.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, absolutely.
So that's what the poem's about.
Yeah. No, it's a good poem. It's good. Yeah.
Cheers.
Hopefully, in our own way, we can be more united than people who divide us want us to be. So there you go.
That would be my hope.
George, do you have another one for us?
Yeah, I do have. Just as ever, when people start talking, I start flicking about through stuff that I've got. And actually, I was going to do after Poetry Day at St Mary's Lighthouse, John. But I've actually just decided, having listened to Graham, that I might do this instead, which is one I came across recently. And interestingly, I decided not to. But I've been posting a daily poem on George Coquito Writer on Facebook, but I decided that I chickened out posting this up in case some of my family read it, because I don't swear, as you will all have noticed. So this is falling in something I've said. So this is passing through. Life began fucked, it set the pattern the future laid out. A lot of fucking about, giving it, taking it, cocking it up. Rising to openings, premature celebrations, unconsummated hopes. Impotent rages, totally fucked up, screwed. In the end, it's a narce of a world, starting and ending fucked.
This is from your angry collection, isn't it, George?
This is my very considered mood now.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good to get things off your chest.
Yep. Hope you feel better now. And breathe.
Do you read your poems out to other people quite a lot, George?
Actually, Graham, sorry.
No, I'm just saying. Do you read your poems out to other people quite a lot?
Oh yeah, I do events and things, but I'm sort of a page poet, but I do like to say. I did once say you were talking about students. I was once in a room with a group of students, and I do suicide poetry sometimes. And I said to them, listen, you're maybe kind of young for me to do suicide poetry to. You're maybe not ready for this. I mean, admittedly, they were about 19, 20. And they looked at me and they said, oh, no, do it, give us a tip, just do it. So I did the suicide poetry. And then I looked at their faces and they're all nearly crying and they're kind of shocked. And it was kind of, because I talk about it quite openly, because I feel that that's the only way that you can talk about it. But I don't think that, funnily enough, I don't think young people were quite ready for the honesty.
Well, the interesting thing about this that is, you know, most suicides are young males. So
Yeah,
you had you had the
I
perfect
appreciate it.
audience for it. They were the perfect
It's something
audience.
it's something that they probably have experienced because they were university students, and I mean, depression in university students is actually quite high. Actually, depression in particularly young males is quite high. But the best reading I did of a suicide poem was I get really angry with guys at the top of the bar who just wouldn't shut up. So I just decided to let them have it with both barrels. So I really shouted at them and just screwed it to them until they basically shut up.
You mind me asking that your suicide poems are they based on your own thinking?
Yes.
Right.
I mean, I would never have done it. I don't think I was brave enough to ever commit suicide, but I did think about it, and I've got poems about counting the tablets and about cutting your. My best suicide poem is "Don't die in a dirty bath." That's my best bit of advice to you: never die in a dirty bath.
You read that a couple of months ago. That was very powerful, George.
I did, yes.
Right. Okay. This is you made it difficult to follow on here, George. We've only got about 3 minutes.
I've got a very short suicide poem.
An unfinished one here.
Can I do it? I mean, it's very
Okay.
short.
Okay.
I'm just hanging around from a tree.
Ooh. That's dark. I like that. Now we've got 2.5 minutes. Is that enough time for you, Jane, or shall I push the button? We'll sign back in. Jane can do her poem. I'll do one, and we'll wrap up. Is that? Shall we? What do you think, Jane? Yeah. Shall we push the button and sign back in? You're on mute. It's always this.
I was going to do a really short one, and then I thought, actually, I've got a really long one about a cat. I'm going to do that. So we'll sign back in.
All right. Good. Okay. We'll see you all in a second then. This is really turning into an interesting evening.
I have to go. Goodbye.
I have to go to the loo.
Okay. Cheers. And we'll see the rest of you in a minute.
Clearly doesn't like cats.
No. The thought of a really long cat poem.
Dog person.
Yeah. I'll see you in a minute.
Have to find things to read now. Do we have to read again, or are we just going to listen to Jane and then go home? And except I'm home already.
Yeah. Getting home's the easy part. Okay, we'll just wait for George. Yeah. It's been interesting. We're just saying, Graham, how interesting it's been with all the questions you've been bringing up and asking us.
Is this not what you normally do? You normally just read a poem and be done with it.
We do a little bit.
Very polite.
We do a little bit.
Right.
You've made us really think.
When
Oh.
when I had Wigton writers, this was exactly what we did
Right.
all the time.
I presume that was kind of because it's online, it's the kind of more of a conversation than a poetry night, as it were.
Oh yeah, absolutely, it is. It's just getting the brain into gear to think about the nature of the
Well,
points.
it depends, doesn't it? I mean, it really is poetry in the round, which is very different to having a discussion normally. And why I started the group years ago was because we did a lot of poetry in the round and didn't talk about it. So it gave an opportunity to talk about it. So it was a talking shop for poetry. I'm not sure whether this is that or not, but it has been tonight.
This is like Graham's poem. I mean, it can be whatever you want it to be. You know, it's
yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. I'd like to have been better prepared.
Yeah, if you can give us those questions in advance next time, Graham, and
it'd be nice to have the crib sheet first. Would be nice.
We'll be able to have quotes and all sorts and references and things for you.
Yeah.
I'll bear that in mind.
You
Yes.
know? Oh no, what am I saying?
Or not.
No, it's been good.
It was interesting what we were talking about rhyme, because I was thinking, I don't as a poet write in rhyme, or very infrequently, but I write songs all the time, and they rhyme. You know,
That's interesting.
Yeah. I hadn't really thought about that, but it's true. Song isn't really a street form.
You should give us a song tonight then.
Absolutely not.
Your songs are brilliant.
Do you play piano or guitar?
It's again, it's not really the venue, is it, Phil?
You
Phil and I
can do what you want.
go to well, Phil and I go to a music night, don't we? Where we do music in the round.
Sometimes,
and we don't talk about it.
It's music club. The first rule is you don't talk about it.
About music. Yeah.
Second rule is you do not talk about it. Yeah.
What happens in music club stays in music club.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. All right, cool. We got George back with us. Hello.
Sorry, my links all disappeared.
That's all right.
I'm not going to do my poem about the cat.
Oh, you've built it up now.
I have got. No, sorry, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. You just have to hope I'll do it another time. No, this was prompted by what George was saying about suicide. It isn't my work, but I kept it because someone very close once actually did successfully kill themselves, and this resonated with me. Gotta find it now. Yeah, got it. And it's by someone called Maggie Royer. I don't know anything more than that. The morning after I killed myself, I woke up. I made myself breakfast in bed. I added salt and pepper to my eggs and used my toast for a cheese and bacon sandwich. I squeezed a grapefruit into a juice glass. I scraped the ashes from the frying pan and rinsed the butter off the counter. I washed the dishes and folded the towels. The morning after I killed myself, I fell in love. Not with the boy down the street or the middle school principal, not with the everyday jogger or the grocer who always left the avocados out of the bag. I fell in love with my mother and the way she sat on the floor of my room, holding each rock from my collection in her palms till they grew dark with sweat. I fell in love with my father down at the river as he placed my note into a bottle and sent it into the current. With my brother who once believed in unicorns, but who now sat in his desk at school, trying desperately to believe I still existed. The morning after I killed myself, I walked the dog. I watched the way her tail twitched when a bird flew by, or how her pace quickened at the sight of a cat. I saw the empty space in her eyes when she reached a stick and turned round to greet me so we could play catch, but saw nothing but sky in my place. I stood by as strangers stroked her muzzle, and she wilted beneath their touch, like she did once for mine. The morning after I killed myself, I went back to the neighbour's yard where I left my footprints in concrete as a 2-year-old and examined how they were already fading. I picked a few daylilies and pulled a few weeds and watched the elderly woman through her window as she read the paper with the news of my death. I saw her husband spit tobacco into the kitchen sink and bring her daily medication. The morning after I killed myself, I watched the sun come up. Each orange tree opened like a hand, and the kid down the street pointed to a single red pointed to a single red cloud. The morning after I killed myself, I went back to that body in the morgue and I tried to talk some sense into her. I told her about the avocados and the stepping stones, the river and her parents. I told her about the sunsets and the dog and the beach. The morning after I killed myself, I tried to unkill myself, but couldn't finish what I'd started. Are you right?
Really like that. So what was the title of it? The Morning After I Killed Myself.
Yeah.
By Maggie Royer. Is that R-O-Y-E-R?
R-O-Y-E-R. Sorry, I said Maggie. I looked at it closely. I can't see very well. It's Meggie Royer.
Oh, Meggie.
M-E-G-G.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
No, I really like that.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Thanks for reading it.
Yeah.
No.
There's a lot.
You might have got a cat poem.
Wow. Okay. There's been interesting turns tonight. The ridiculous to the sublime and the powerful and all sorts. I was gonna read this one, which is my suggestion about what poetry is, and it goes like this. Poetry is not truth. Poetry is creation. Poetry is imagination. Poetry is supposition. Poetry is fiction. Poetry is not real. Poetry is surreal. Poetry is dream weaving. Poetry is asking questions. Poetry is making sense of the world. Poetry is making a nonsense of the world. Poetry is words. Poetry is trying to be clever. Poetry is not as clever as it thinks. Poetry is immediate. Poetry is raw. Poetry is anything. Poetry is not everything. Poetry is poetry. There you are. That's my take on it.
Or is it?
Well, that's the question. But yeah. Whew, all right. That's been great. It's been a mental workout tonight. Yeah, excellent stuff.
Good.
Thank you, everybody. Give yourselves a round of applause for reading, everyone who read, and everybody who listened, and everybody who sang, and everybody who didn't sing. And yeah, excellent stuff. And shall we do this again next month? And then we might have a bit of a break over summer. But yeah, that was really good. As I say, all those things are happening. Poetry Symposium in May. SpeakEasy in person next week at the Source. And yeah, it's been great. Make sure you get home safe. And we'll catch up at some point soon. So yeah, that was SpeakEasy.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Well done, Phil. Thanks a lot.
Thank you
Cheers.
all. It's been fabulous. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, thanks, Phil.
Yeah, bye, Phil.
All right, where's the button? I better end this thing so you can get on with your lives, or we'll just be here talking about poetry forever, which would be nice.
Life is a poem.
Absolutely. Yeah, life's a poem.
Yeah.
Okay, and on that note, have a good one. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.